Hello and welcome to Retail Media Unplugged. I'm Cindy Loza, Senior Editor for the Path to Purchase Institute. In this series, we dive into the nitty-gritty of retail media to explore the latest trends, strategies, and tactics for success. Each episode, we go behind the scenes with industry experts to uncover best practices for navigating this evolving landscape. Joining us today, I'm delighted to welcome Adam Skinner, Managing Director of Retail Media at Epsilon, and one of this year's P2PI Retail Media Award winners. Adam, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with me today, and congratulations on your well-deserved win.
Thank you, Cindy. It's great to be here.
Just jumping in, you've said that the earliest retail media buy you can remember was a massive cardboard display for Weetabix back in the summer of 1996. 30 years later, here we are, and the spotlight is back on the physical store with in-store retail media. Why do you think retail media started and is now returning to the brick and mortar store?
Yeah, look, I think it's funny. So like the Weetabix campaign that I saw was in my local Coles store in Australia. For all the people listening or viewing, I do have an Australian accent. I'm originally not from the US, from Australia, so the Weetabix campaign was really a display for cricket. Again, it was like a co-branded campaign for trying to get kids or trying to get their kids to ask their parents to buy Weet-Bix and had all of the cricket stars on there and stuff like that. So I feel like it's not much as retail media is returning to the store as much as the store is finally catching up, to where digital media has been over the last kind of like 2 to 3 decades. And so whilst that campaign with the cardboard cutouts worked in the late 90s, for the same reason as like a sponsored product campaign works in 2026, because it meets the shopper where they are in that decision cycle and in their purchase cycle as well. And I think the one thing that is really interesting is that even with all of the digitization that we've had over the course of the last 3 decades, particularly with like e-commerce and all of that coming through, 80% of all of the transactions still occur in store. So the journey might start online, but you're still going to the store to either push your cart around, and pick the products, or pick up and click and collect. So I think the industry has spent the last few decades optimizing that 20% of online, whereas now that correction is coming back to kind of like where the real unlock is like where we can have that full omni-channel measurement across all of those channels, and understand the shopper across all of those channels, wherever they are in that journey.
We're moving into an era of agentic commerce where AI bots are beginning to handle search, discovery, and even purchases on behalf of consumers. How do marketers connect with the shopper when the shopper is an algorithm? And how should retailers and CPG brand marketers prepare for a future where a bot and not a human is making the brand choice?
This is a rather interesting one because I've had a couple of questions from different people on this, and the way that I look at it, is the agent or the bot is really just a proxy for the human. So when you think of it, loyalty becomes really important, not less, in the agentic world, and connected identity, becomes just as important as well, because the brands need to the brands and the advertisers are wanting to understand kind of like what I was saying before around being where that purchase is occurring. If the agent's just a proxy for the human that's making the purchase, then really that means that the brand needs to exist inside that consumer's loyalty viewport, and the agent needs to understand how to identify, how to prioritize you as being the individual. So a few people have asked me, they're like, oh, is this where, like it's a different form of identity. No, it's not. I think this is where kind of like that commerce data layer becomes so much more important in the agentic world, because the brands and the retailers with the strongest first party data relationships are ultimately going to be the ones that are going to kind of thrive and kind of grow in this new era, because they're the ones that are controlling all of those signals and intent signals, okay, that are really rich, that are fueling these agents. The way they look at it as well is like the ones that are going to win in this new world are not going to be the ones that are going to have the best ads and the best creatives. They're going to be the ones that are going to be embedded in that consumer's behavior and their life cycle as well. So, you know, I'll give you an example. Like if I'm in the market for a new pair of runners, okay, and I type into my agent, okay, find me a pair of runners, and it sends back a whole heap of personalized offers that just don't meet me as the individual, then I'm probably not going to use the agent moving forward. Okay. But if I'm in that preference graph, okay, before the agent even runs a query, okay, and it knows my preferences around I'm an Under Armour purchaser. I have a size 13 shoe. I like black runners instead of white runners, and it gives me back all those choices across all of the retail landscape. Then I'm gonna browse, and I'm gonna kind of preference towards the retailers that have my choice.
Everyone tracks what Amazon and Walmart are doing, us included. But there are also hundreds of independent and mid-market retailers out there. How do smaller players realistically compete? Do you see a future of unified networks where a brand can buy across 10 mid-market retailers through a single interface?
There's another value for that mid tail and the long tail, okay, of retail and commerce media networks, and that is that when you look at the reach, okay, across some of the mass reach networks, okay, there are still audiences and gaps, okay, that those mass reach networks can't reach. Okay, so this should be like an and. Okay, it's not where a brand is kind of like only investing in those mass reach. They could those long tail and mid tail RMNs, or regional and super regional RMNs. They have often they have deeper category, okay, affinity and deeper audience affinity, particularly when you're dealing with, say, a super regional, okay, where it might only be that grocer or that convenience store in that community. So they have access to this demographic data that necessarily the mass reach don't have. But I do see a world where that the opportunity for that mid tail and the long tail consolidating and aggregating, okay, and making it easier for the brands to be able to activate, okay, across that. Because when we look at it, like together, Amazon and Walmart are still less than half of the US grocery. Okay, so all of those other regional and super regionals still have massive audience value and massive audience reach, okay, into communities that necessarily they can't reach. So I think that as the brands start to consolidate down, I think there was an eMarketer stat that said that they're consolidating down from 10 RMNs to 4 to 6 RMNs this year. There's still an opportunity for those mid and long tails to capture some of that consolidation through aggregation or through, mediation, etc. as well. So I feel the next 10 billion, okay, like as we start to kind of go through into 2030, the next 10 billion isn't going to come from a third giant emerging against Amazon and Walmart. It's ultimately going to come from the long tail finally being able to aggregate, okay, and become more easier to work with, okay, and the ability to buy that measurable connected audience.
Next, commerce media has long been treated as a lower funnel play, but with CTV, social, and offsite extensions in the mix, it's becoming a full funnel brand building channel. Do you think the upper lower funnel distinction is dead in commerce media? And what does that mean for how CMOs allocate budgets in the next 2 years?
Yeah, I've heard this about this is another one I've heard a few times over the course of the last few months, where someone's like, "Oh, the funnel's dead," or the funnel's dying. Okay. I don't, or with the funnel's collapsing. I don't think the funnel has collapsed. Okay, because consumers have changed. Okay, I think it's collapsing. Okay, because effectively commerce media and retail media as a whole has given marketers more of a connected view across the shopper journey, okay, and where shoppers can actually kind of move between those upper and lower funnels, okay. And so I think there's like a level of commerce intelligence, okay, where that's shaping kind of like those funnels, okay, where you can understand verified shoppers and competitor buyers, okay, more effectively, okay, now using the tools that commerce and retail media have provided. Okay, so the line between brand and performance media, okay, is dissolving because the same identity and commerce signals and intent signals, okay, are now starting to inform planning, activation, measurement across those channels, okay, as opposed to being completely distinct within the movement of the funnel.
Side note, I've been at the Institute for like 15 years, and I feel like I've been talking about the flattening of the funnel for like the last decade. So I know it's always fun to see it.
Yeah, and I think it's like there's a funny nature to it as well. There's this like I think kind of like when you kind of have like linear TV and kind of probably some of all of those legacy legacy ad types that didn't really provide some of the same kind of ability, okay, to do brand building and brand awareness to like what CTV can do, okay. And so like I think a single CTV campaign that's informed by rich audience and commerce data can actually simultaneously drive multiple outcomes. So it could be driving brand awareness, it could be driving consideration, it could also be driving conversion, all in that same campaign.
Well, that wraps up this episode of Retail Media Unplugged. A big thank you to you, Adam, for sharing your expertise with us today. For the Path to Purchase Institute, I'm Cyndi Loza. Thanks for tuning in.